we've talked in the past about how people then go about looking for software
Yeah.
to convert that into something real, to actually get rid of the admin, to get rid of the spreadsheets, to make things more effective. Um, tell me again some of the kind of mistakes that people make when they go about looking at software. I enjoy those.
Yeah, I think it comes down to not doing that bit before about defining, a vision of how they want their business to work in the future, and focusing on that first of all. It's probably putting the cart before the horse and going in, well, let's look at software and how that can do anything for us, which it can, but let's define what it needs to do for us first of all, and then evaluate potential solutions based on their capability and cost for delivering how we want our business to work. Which, if you haven't done the bit before, which we've already accepted is difficult,
Yeah.
then it then becomes even more difficult. It's probably easier to look at software, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to evaluate it effectively if you haven't defined what it needs to do for you.
No, quite. And then what's the best role do you think that the software providers themselves can provide, that the salespeople can provide, that the supplier, management chains can provide?
I think it's listening, first of all, not selling, listening to what people are trying to achieve. And if the client hasn't got a clear view on that, I think it's probably advising them as well that you probably need to do that bit of work first, rather than just trying to sell them software, which can be, you might sell them the software, but ultimately then that isn't necessarily going to be a productive relationship. You'll sell them the software, but you're trying to, you want a long-term relationship with your customer. So ideally you want them to be happy and moving forward with you, potentially spending more money on future developments as well. But to do that, they've got to start off on the right footing, have the right foundations in place, where they've identified where they're going to go, what they need as a base level from a systems perspective, and then you can help them on the journey for hopefully 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
There's a lot of salesmen out there, and I think it's very much more about you want to be that trusted partner really from a software perspective, that you're helping the client get from somewhere where they are at the moment to where they need to be, rather than just selling them a new piece of software.
Yes, easier said than done. Having been on that side of the fence so often with VPs and directors screaming on when a particular deal's going to close, that notion of working it the other way around to help a client find the right solution, buy the right solution, and indeed put it in right. They're almost in contradiction when one.
It's true, and I think you can see the difference between software providers and some who are, you're not a box shifter, and I think that's important to think about from a software perspective. It comes down to culture, and if you've got to be able to walk away from deals that might get you some revenue initially, but are probably going to cost you longer term if it's not on being started off on a good footing, because you've sold them some software that probably doesn't address or provide them with real benefit, because you're going to quickly get found out, because they'll move on to somebody else, and then that isn't really what you want, because the cost of sale exceeds the benefit you're going to get out of it. So there's a significant cost in selling software, so make sure you do it right, so that you can add real value to your customers, and therefore that they'll be with you for a long time to recoup that and make good profit from them, and enable them to make profit themselves.